This video is to give some guidance on sketchbook number 1, which is using line to fill an everyday object. So the first thing you need to do is think about what you want to draw. You don't have to take up the entire paper. For a sketchbook assignment, I'm looking for more of maybe about half your 9 by 12. So we're looking at about a 6 by 9. This is the nice thing about a sketchbook assignment is I'm looking for less time than what a project would be. Now, if you want to go above and beyond, certainly do that. I do add some extra credit points if you need it on that assignment if you do go a little bit larger, but I'm looking for about half the paper filled by the time that you're done. So your object, pick something, and when I say object, it could be an actual object, it could be an animal, it could be just, you know, maybe it's a building that's recognizable, like the Eiffel Tower. I would pick something that interests you. Otherwise, it's not going to be as much fun to work with. That's hopefully one of the cool things about art is being creative and you're learning and you're applying it to something that you actually enjoy. So for me, I'm going to pick a dessert. I like to draw cupcakes. So I'm going to kind of sketch that out. And I realize you guys are still working on your drawing skills. So you could look up what the object looks like to help you as a reference instead of just going based on memory. A lot of times that helps quite a bit. I've drawn cupcakes several times, so I feel confident just to draw a basic one. And I'm drawing in pencil so that I can erase some of the lines that I don't want later. This is just a sketch. I'm keeping it really light. So make sure to use like a mechanical pencil or your number 2 pencil because it's soft versus some of those darker pencils that I have in the bag. All right, so here is a sketch of my object. I chose a dessert. It's kind of fun, whimsical when you think about a dessert. From there, then you want to divide it into sections. So I already have the top part of the cupcake, thinking about the base of the cupcake. Sometimes you get those little foil wrappers around the bottom. So I kind of thought, hey, it's got some lines that go down to kind of mimic that. The frosting usually has some waves to it. So I'm just putting these lines to kind of divide up my object, my chosen subject matter. Once you have it sketched out, then you can move to your thin and thick Sharpie that I put in your art pack. I like to start with the thinner Sharpie because I can always thicken up the lines later. But if you start really thick very quickly, you know, it's like putting those lines in bold, so they're going to really stand out. So now I'm just going to outline everything. All those lines that I know I want to keep. Looks like my marker's running out just a little bit. I don't have a backup marker with me. If you notice that your hand is very shaky, use a ruler, okay, or a stencil to help you get some of those lines. I know that will come with time, but in the meantime, if you feel like you need a ruler, go for it. It's gonna help your craftsmanship grade. Because some people, you know, like I said, it takes time to develop that steady hand. And sometimes if my blood sugar is getting low, I get a little shaky myself, so it happens. Okay, so I divided this into several sections. Now you need to think about different lines that you can apply to your object. And as these lines get repeated, they create patterns. And then from there, you can fill in some of those areas to get a balance of the light and dark. So thinking about different lines, I added some straight lines, zigzag lines, curvy lines. And as you guys know, a zigzag line is not going to be the same for every single one. Maybe there's a zigzag that has a little curve to it. If you're looking for ideas with lines, or just as you take these lines and make these patterns, you can look up Zentangles on online, and there's some great ideas there. And I've included some examples of those Zentangles on your handout as well. So feel free to use those to help give you some ideas of just different lines, because I know you can feel kind of stuck sometimes with, well, I know what a line is, but how can I show variety with my lines? And it's okay to repeat some of the patterns, that would be fine. So maybe this time I work with like a curved line. And this is just to get you guys to, you know, practice your drawing skills. Do something fun with the elements for all those reasons. That's why I assign sketchbook assignments. Okay. Almost reminds me of kind of like a spider web. I would like to finish the rest of it, but I know you, you know, with the video and the demonstration, I don't want to take too long for you guys and then start feeling like I'm losing your interest. So I'm just going to focus on this area here versus up at the top, just for time's sake. Maybe I go and add like a little dot to this design. Could start switching over to your thicker Sharpie. Maybe I do create like a checkerboard where one section is the white of the paper, and if you notice that the Sharpies start to bleed through, feel free to put a scrap piece of paper behind the drawing paper that you're working with. Or, you know, if it ends up bleeding onto the paper behind it, you can skip over it or remove that as your kind of scrap paper that you put behind your work. That way it's not bleeding onto anything else. Then I could shade that in. You're looking for kind of an overall balance of the light and dark. Maybe I do that here, add like a bigger dot in between. Let's see, maybe I add, I know I said I wasn't gonna work up here at the top, but I changed my mind. Maybe I add kind of like this, almost like scales or little upside down rainbows. And then maybe I alternate that. I should probably finish the rest of that, but for time's sake, I'm gonna leave it. But maybe I probably should have started with my thin Sharpie. Maybe I alternate that with a thinner design underneath. Wasn't very well planned out. Not how I envisioned, but it's okay. And this just kind of shows you too, like the different line thicknesses and how they stand out differently. Okay, so hopefully this gives you a little instruction on how to create your own Zentangle object, you could call it, or I just call it like the object with focusing on the element of line, and then those become patterns and different shapes. So hopefully this was helpful.